Hello there, good morning everybody. We're taking a look today at Ezra chapter number 9. We see that it's not a long chapter, maybe 15, 16 verses, and we see this is all about the Israelites marrying the wives of the pagans. They're marrying the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. And God is in this whole paragraph, this whole chapter is about what Ezra does when he finds out and stuff like that. So go ahead and read it. It's a great read. What I want to talk about, though, is a couple things I want to pick up. It says right here, verse 1. It says, "The people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land." It goes down into verse 11. "The land which you are entering to possess is an unclean land, with uncleanness of the peoples of the land, with their abominations which have filled it from one end to another with their impurity." And verse 12, God specifically says that you are not to take it as you are not to take their daughters as wives. You're not supposed, don't mix with them. So what I really want to talk about today is you see that Israel was called to be in that place, but not of that place, if that makes sense. And it's very similar for us. You know, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. You know, the Lord has given us life here on this planet to reach people, to lift Him up. Now, God does not call us to a life of isolation. He wants us to be involved in the community. He wants us to be involved in non-believers' lives. Now, we shouldn't be taking biblical advice from a non-believer. We should be offering biblical advice to a non-believer. We should be, our mixture of friends should have believers and non-believers. How else would you reach the world? See, Jesus wants us to reach this world. He wants us to be involved in this world, but He doesn't want us to get involved in the sin and the destruction and the abominations of this world. But we are to be in the world, leading them to Christ, leading them out of the world and to Him. I want to take a look at Matthew. In Matthew, a verse in Matthew. It's Matthew 16. It's verse number 18. And this is Jesus speaking, and He said, "And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against this." Now, mind you, the rock that he is using, the rock in the Bible is there's two different meanings in the rock in the Bible. There is a pebble type rock, and there is a big boulder foundation type rock. And you know, whenever you see the rock referring to Jesus Himself, it is the foundation type. And whenever you see the rock referring to somebody else, like Peter here, it's a little pebble type. But what I want says, "On this rock I will build my church." Now that word church is the word ecclesia. Ecclesia actually comes from two different words. The word ek, which means out of or from, and the word kaleo, which means to call. So when you put the two words together, it forms a new word, which means an assembly of called out ones. Okay? So you are an assembly of called out ones. Okay, an assembly means you're coming together, called out. Called out from where? You're called out of the world to be grafted into the family of Christ. You're called out of the world to be an example and to be a light for this dark world. You see, God has not changed. God does not change. From the beginning of time, He has had this plan for His special people that they will be a light in the world. And as we're reading it here today, the Israelites are those people. And after Christ, you see, we are grafted into that. Not that He calls us Israelites, but that we are to be a light in this shining world. We are to be involved in the affairs of this world, but not doing the affairs of this world. How else will people see the light if you're not there? So, what's the point of all of this? The point of all of this is that God has called us to be here. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to be here. Sometimes it just, there is difficulties around every corner. There's temptation around every corner. There is just so much around every corner. But God has said, I chose you. I chose you to share my light in those difficulties. I chose you to be an example of what my power can do in those moments of temptation. He said, I chose you. I have called you out of this world to follow me. Have a super day, guys. I love you all.